There has been a recent trend in a lot of manhwas with the same plot. Boy or girl, poor, with unconventional or ugly looks, apparently. With acne, glasses, and the whole shebang loser look. They get bullied for reading manga and liking anime, basically nerd stuff. Which is really weird, especially now. In the modern day, if you read manga, you're part of the cool kids club, like everyone watches anime now. But I digress. Then something magical happens to these people and they become perfect. They're pretty, everyone loves them, and they got clear skin, perfect vision, become taller, skinnier, more length. They're the most popular kids. There are no more bullies, they're loved, and everyone is just happy to be around them. You get the gist. There are 3 main webtoons/manhwas that touch on this topic greatly. Lookism, True Beauty, and The Glass Slippers. Especially the first 2, which are Korean webtoons, while the third is a Chinese webcomic. Lookism is frankly the best of all 3, and handles the ugly to good-looking genre really well. It discusses greatly the beauty standards that are heavily present in South Korea and most East Asian countries. Such standards, as you may already know, include having pale skin, being tall, skinny, having a small face, no acne, V-shaped jawline, double eyelids, thin eye nose, rosy cheeks, small cupid bow. You know the gist. This webtoon, especially Lookism, is based in South Korea and follows Daniel Kim, a high schooler who was, in lack of better terms, ugly to his peers in society. Firstly, he's bigger in size, so they're like, he's ugly, which is really weird, but okay, do you. Then he's also short, but you know, short kings, we gotta represent, like, yo. And then he's basically the opposite of what I listed earlier about being tall, pale skin, skinny, rosy cheeks, all of that business. He is none of that. He gets bullied ruthlessly and beaten and made fun of by everyone in his class. He is a loner and depressed. He wants to switch schools, but his mom says nah, till she witnesses him getting bullied, and he shouts at his mom because, you know, it's definitely understandable because, like, a lot of people who are bullied, like victims of bullying, they do not want their family members to see that they're being bullied because it makes them feel less than, which is definitely understandable. And sometimes it's hard for them to seek help from higher authorities, like teachers and all that respect, because frankly, sometimes the teachers don't even care, or they do care, but they make it worse. So it's just extremely hard for him, and he gets angry at his mom, and then his mom finally agrees to let him switch schools. Which, you know, yay for him. Finally, he's not going to get bullied, right? But then he goes to the new school, the new environment, and then he gets profiled. They think him ugly. They're like, are you trying to get my girl? Nah, it was a whole weird mess. You can definitely get into it in the webcomic and webtoons. But basically, he's depressed because no matter where he goes, he's always going to be bullied. He's always going to be hated because of his looks. And he can't really help it. Like, you can't really help how you're built, like how you're born. And it's just like, it's so really weird how people just hate on someone for that they cannot even change on your own. It's just crazy, but understandable, especially in modern real times where you're basically judged for how you look, whether you're skinny or you have a hourglass-shaped figure, or all of that respect. Setup is telling for nowadays. But yeah, basically, he then goes to sleep and wakes up in a new body, which is like, whoa, he gets like really surprised and it's just like, what is happening here? Like, and then he sees his old body and he's like, yo, he thought he was dead, but apparently he wasn't. He just switched bodies. And then, you know, the body is beautiful, the body is handsome, well proportioned, and he's like, yo, my life can really change right now. I can literally just be this pretty person and I will go with life beautiful and everyone's gonna love me and I'm not gonna get bullied anymore. And you know, he decides to do that. So first day of school, he goes in with a new body and everyone loves it. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? The guys want to be friends with him. The girls want to be with him. He's like living life. But at the end of the day, he has to go back to his old body because the body needs to like have time to rest. And basically when one body is awake, the other is asleep and vice versa. And so he needs to make money. And so he makes money with his old body. And there, he starts to see the discrepancies with how he's being treated in the handsome body versus the not handsome body. He goes through the journey of finding himself and loving himself in both bodies and being more confident and being able to protect himself. After all, he was being bullied ruthlessly when he was unable to in his previous school. And it's journey and story just goes on from there, and it's so very interesting because it is highly detailed. Like, the art is so beautiful, and it touches on the psychology, like a victim's personality, like what really happens from the victim's point of view on the sort of bullying they face and how it affects their psyche, and how people can come up from that, like how Daniel, the main character in the story, was able to change. Like, even though it had the body of the perfect person, it was still able to enact change in his old body and become and feel more comfortable in his real self. So it was really a self journey, and like a good way for the author and the artist to just touch upon how the South Korea's body images and body perceptions and body standards affect people, especially children and teens in the modern age. And then this is like a really good webtoon, and this is the good, and we're about to get into the bad and uglies. And so the next webcomic I'm going to discuss is True Beauty. Now, True Beauty is a very popular one. There's already a K-drama out, and I love the K-drama. I love the webtoon, like, no hate. The art is really pretty. It's so vivid. I love the descriptions, everything. But the storytelling leaves much to be desired. Now, let me just get into it. So firstly, True Beauty is a Korean webtoon that focuses on the dark sides of South Korea's beauty standards, similar to Lookism, except that in this case, the main character is female. It follows Jugyung, if I'm pronouncing that right, a high schooler who gets bullied for her looks, as she has acne and wears glasses. It's really weird how how the artists and the writers categorize ugly people with having glasses. Like, okay, do you not want me to see then? Like, a blurry vision all the way to the pathway of beauty? But it's weird, but that's just a little tangent. Anyway, she's like tired of this. She has really bad acne. She wants to be pretty. Her friends bully her. Well, not friends, obviously, but her classmates bully her. Nobody likes her, and she's feeling lonely, depressed, all of that business. Even her family sometimes makes fun of her, especially her brother was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so ugly." But like that's sort of like a sibling dynamic, anyways. But it really affects her psyche and her mentality and herself, because she feels very, very self-conscious. And so, what does she do to fix this problem? As with many teenage girls, like, makeup mostly is portrayed as this like fix all, remove all, make one beautiful, and it can make one beautiful. And in her case, it made her beautiful. Like, she was able to feel more confident in herself, which was very, very great. And she, at first she applied the makeup, she didn't do it specifically well because she didn't really know the techniques, and so it sort of looked like a clown makeup, and she got bullied for that even more, and she got more depressed. But she bounces back, okay? She learns the proper techniques, asking YouTube, Reddit, all of that business, and she gets the tips, and she's able to turn herself beautiful. And then she goes back to school, and they're like, "Who is this chick?" And then she's like, "Oh, it's Jugyung." But they don't know it's Jugyung because she looks very different. And she's happy, she's enjoying life. She's like, "Okay, I'm pretty now. What do pretty people do?" Pretty people, they do not read manga. Pretty people just talk about pretty things like makeup, lipstick brand, clothes brand, and yeah, that's it. Are pretty people just into material things? I don't think so, but it's really weird how she portrays it that way. But I can see her point of view in that, like, that's what she knows. Like, that's what she's seen so far from the people who were deemed pretty in her school, and maybe YouTube and the other media she was consuming. It was like, pretty people do not like nerdy things. Pretty people like popular things. They like Western things. They are different. They're not like the normal people. But anyway, she puts pretty people on pedestals, and so she tries to act in a perceived way of how a pretty person should act like. And it takes a toll on her. And she's like tired. She's like, the new friends she has made, it's hard to keep in touch with them anymore because it's like they don't really connect because she's pretending to be someone else. And it's just really hard for her. And so she has this little like comic book shop she goes to read manga. And there she meets this guy, Suho, who's his name. He's really pretty. He's everything the South Korea's beauty standards are. V-shaped chin, double eyelids, all of that business. And she's like, whoa. And bear in mind, she doesn't go into the manga shop as a pretty person. She just goes in her normal self, acne, full glasses, normal clothes, all of that business, like sweatpants and slacks. And she's like basically in her comfortable environment. She's who she is. And, they get into this altercation where, like, he's like, oh, I saw this comic book first. No, I saw this comic book first. He took it first. And she was like, but then they got to know each other more. And then Suho finds out Jugyoung is the girl with glasses and acne. And he basically blackmails her to do whatever she wants, blah, blah, blah. That's not really what I'm trying to get into here. It's specifically on the premise of True Beauty. Like, it's sort of really interesting of a girl who wasn't really confident in herself, but she was trying to change. She was trying to be different. She was trying to be more loved by society, perceived to be a better person, because there people thought ugly people were ugly, and they couldn't be anything more than ugly, and so they were bullied and hated on, which is really weird because, like, why are you hating on someone for not being as pretty as you want them to be? Like, they're just minding their business. Like, leave them alone. They ain't doing anything to you. But, I don't know. I guess pretty people just want to hate on the people who are ugly. But, it's super weird. But, sometimes you can't really understand a bully's mentality. They just decide to do that sometimes because that's what makes them feel powerful, makes them feel strong, all of that business, which is really weird. But, hey, okay, you do you, I guess. But on regards to Jugyoung, something I really didn't like was across the hundreds of chapters, because it's like, I believe it's like 200 and something right now. I had to stop because it wasn't given what I wanted it to give, in the sense that she never really grows from her insecurities in the way Daniel does in Lookism, where he tries to improve himself. Here, she still relies on makeup, and I'm not saying makeup is a bad thing. It definitely helps build one's self-esteem, but at the same time, rather than just relying on that one medium, I would have loved her to do something more, instead of just worry about her love life, which was basically what was mainly portrayed on the screen, which was like, okay, I wish this was more of a self-reflection Jugyoung's storyline, not Jugyoung and these two characters, boys fighting for her, and she trying to choose Woo and Woo. I just wanted her to just be her and, grow from her insecurities and things like that. And, I just wish the author showed ways by which Jugyoung learned to love herself, like her true self, herself without the makeup, just a normal self, even with the acne scars, the acne, the glasses, all of that respect, because people with glasses can be pretty too, okay? People with glasses can be pretty too. But I just wanted her to, love herself for who she was. Like, maybe try to take care of herself more. Like, have a skincare regimen. Oh, to just improve her skin. Maybe have face masks, all of that respect, to just make her skin better so that, she can be able to be confident to go out in her own skin and just be free. Because right now, Jugyoung isn't free. She's always worrying that her makeup is going to come off, people are going to find out the true her, and she's not going to be loved, that she's going to be hated, that she's going to be bullied, and all of that respect. And it's really such a sad and not a good way to live life, and it is very taxing to do so. And so I would have loved for the author to just focus more on Jugyoung's character and self-growth and journey, rather than our romantic relationships, which is like something I really do not like, but it's really apparent in a lot of this manhwas. And I understand, because some people are not interested in self-reflection stories. They just want to see what the main character gets in with. And, okay, I get ya. You want Suho to win. You want the other guy to win. But let's focus on Jugyoung. Let her be happy in her own skin. Hopefully, things change as this story progresses. She learns to love herself. Because I want her to be happy in her own skin, okay? Like, please. It's hard. Like, I don't know. It's not really giving much of a good sense of hope for people, because it's just like, oh, makeup can fix everything and everything's going to be fine, and then you're going to have this makeup and you're going to have this love interest and everyone's going to fall in love with you, and then you're going to have to aid and blah, 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 blah. It's just way too much, and I would love for the story to change and focus on Jugyoung only. Anyways, let's get into the next one. Webcomic Glass Slippers. Now, Glass Slippers is something else. It's a Chinese webcomic. It sort of follows the storyline of, ugly girl changes, becomes beautiful. But there's a twist. She exacts revenge. It's interesting, if I could say that. I mean, it does start off with the same premise, like I said earlier. And, it's hard to explain, because it's similar to Lookism, about, poor ugly girl becomes beautiful, but it takes a really wild turn, okay? So this girl, Peggy Chu, she's a normal girl. She got abandoned by a mom, and then she's trying to live life and trying to survive, but she's not pretty to like the standards that everyone is held to in her college, and everyone deems her ugly. But then she's dating this guy, but this guy's just is a mess. He's trash, basically. He's a whole red flag. And she pays for his stuff. She pays for him to eat. She helps him to do menial activities. And I'm like, girl, that's a red flag. Leave him. But she's like, oh no, he loves me. And then she finds out he's cheating on her. And he's like, oh my gosh, what about the other girl? Like, what would she feel? What would she think? And I'm like, dude, leave this man alone. But she doesn't. And then she tries to get with him. He's like, nah. And then she meets up with Patricia. And Patricia is like, I'm going to keep this man to myself. And there's nothing you're going to do about it. And so she pushes her off the cliff. Okay? That's a crazy start. Like, it wasn't even that bad in Lookism and True Beauty. But anyways, from there, she falls from the cliff. She survives. I don't know how, but she does. And then there's a cut in her hand. And out of her hand, a glass slipper comes out. Out of the wound in her hand, a glass slipper comes out. And so she's like, she wears the glass slipper, she turns beautiful. And she's like, whoa, some guy like saved her. And she was like, oh, thank you. But like, you only did that because I'm beautiful. And she's like, okay, makes sense. But then she does all of that. She goes back to the college. She's like all pretty now, dolled up in her shoes. And she's like, I'm going to mess with all of y'all. I'm pretty now. Ain't nothing going to happen to me. And you guys can't do anything to me. And I'm like, okay, slay. But like, what are you going to do now? Because anytime she takes off the glass slipper, she turns back to her normal self, sort of like the Cinderella story aspect of things. And it's like, you can't wear the glass slipper forever. You can't wear the glass slipper to go to the gym, but she apparently does because she decides to take up a cheerleading position. And she decides to cheerlead using glass slippers. And I was like, okay, I mean, you do you, Quinn. But then it just gets even crazier because the wound in her hand opens out to become a mouth. Like, it starts to grow. And then the mouth in the hand is, like, hungry. And so she feeds the mouth in the hand by killing her roommate. Person. Someone she knew that she hated. Anyway, she killed her. And I was like, yo. And then she was like, oh, I feel bad. And she was like, no, I don't. She was like, I don't want to be ugly anymore. So she does that. She kills someone else. She, like, kidnaps 2 girls because they're making fun of her. Pours gasoline on them. Makes one of the friends kill the other one. And then releases that one. And then the one that was lying dead or like dying, she feeds our mouth in the end with the person. So she kills 2 people. And she's like, I don't care as long as I'm pretty. And then you see the glass slipper starts growing on her and is starting to become like stuck. Like it's consuming her basically. And I'm just like, who thought of this story? Who decided, yes, this is a good revenge story. This is gonna set the beauty standards straight. You know, this is a good revenge. She's taking it back. She's taking her life back. No, she is not. What is this? This ain't no revenge. This ain't no hitting back against the system. This is craziness. Murder does not solve anything, y'all. What? And she does all of that. And I'm just like, who greenlit this? Who greenlit this? This is horrible. A 0 out of 10. A 0 out of 10. In fact, a negative 1,000 out of 10. I would say, if you're sort of interested in the revenge story and just to see how far she goes, you can possibly read this. But personally, I stopped at like episode 17, chapter 17. I was trying to see if she was going to change, do something about life, but she doesn't. It just gets even worse. And I'm just like, it's a no. It's a no for me. Personally, I wish the author, it's an interesting plot line with, the Cinderella shoes making her pretty. From there, like I said, with True Beauty, she could use those shoes to build up her confidence, but at the same time, learn to love herself as she truly is, because she can never wear those shoes everywhere. Like, will you bathe with those shoes? Will you go on a run with those shoes? Because I know you cannot run with them Cinderella shoes on. I know your feet hurting. And it's just horrible. But yeah, an interesting read if you're into that sort of thing, but personally, it's a no from me. But yeah, that's all, folks. 3 webtoons. 2 that were okay. 1 amazing. The last left much to be desired. Well, goodbye then.